Well, it's weird being here. Very messy and dirty. Hi, we are Tia and Rob. We met and fell in love as teenagers, were forced apart, and found our way back together 29 years later. It feels like we picked up where we left off. Kind of. After a very long and complicated time apart, we finally get to feel love again, to love and be loved in a healthy way. We are now cultivating a life we want to feel through a quest of love, growth, and happiness. We plan on sailing off into the sunset together. We have a journey between now and then in order to make that a reality, sailing home together. Well, here I am at the apartment I used to live in with my mom and my brother. That feels kind of weird to be here, actually. There's parts of it I don't even recognize, which is weird, but I guess it's not, since the last time I was here was probably 1987. Yeah. So in here was where I lived. This was all my mom could afford on social assistance. And so this is where we lived. Well, it's weird being here. Very messy and dirty. That's the address. I don't remember it looking like that, but it is 35 years ago now.
I'm driving up to my old house that I was living in 1987 when I met Tia, and then actually it's the same house that we broke up in, and it's the same house I graduated from. It's the same house that I left and moved into my first apartment. So yeah, there's a lot of life changes that happened in this place. It's really weird to be in this neighborhood. I feel like I'm kind of almost two people. I feel like I'm a teenager, and then I also am looking through the lens of an adult now. It's really strange. It's really, really strange. It feels like I should be able to just drive into the driveway and hop out and go in. I still remember where, it feels like I could just get in there. Here's the place. All the little things. My parents actually had this house built. I remember trying to get in a bunch of rocks for the front landscaping, and helped paint things and helped build rooms.
We walk to school, high school, grade 10, up through there. And at night when I'd have practice after school, like for basketball or volleyball, I used to walk here in the dark. I don't think anybody recommends that now. I don't think it was recommended then either.
At the time, I did have a car, and so for the most part, I drove to the library. It wasn't terribly far. A little bit further than it would be comfortable walking, say, in an evening, especially in the fall and later in the winter. It's about, I don't know, 3 or 4 kilometers.
So I would often walk to the library
It just wasn't very calm or quiet at my house, my apartment. Not a lot of room, it was very small. Oftentimes I could hear things I didn't want to hear being in that environment.
I remember feeling also the least part of my family. I felt very separate even then. That's where I probably really started noticing it the most.
So I'd go to the library to study, and it'd be a place to go with friends, and we would go and study there, and it was quiet and it was calm and it was clean, and I quite liked it there. And that's where I met Rob.
An 81 Bronco. I do have some fond memories of that. Yeah, it's probably what I identify as being the last vestiges of my teenage years. After that, it started becoming, much more adult. But his drive is still bringing back like incredible memories. I remember pulling into this place often at night because, for the most part here in Vancouver, things get dark pretty early in the fall and all the way through the spring, and so often I didn't want to walk in the dark, and it was rainy and feeling quite miserable, I think. But then getting here and getting in front of the library just feels, I'd have to say, I think this may be the same spots that I was parking in 35 years ago.
What was so important about meeting Rob at the library, and what impact did he have on my life? He accepted me for me. His family was a whole other story.
I was in a group therapy session, and one of the exercises that we had to do was we had branching points in our life. We had to list them out and go through them. And one of my early branching points was meeting Tia. Branching point is, it's a point in your life where something dramatic happens and your life changes as a result. Because up to that point in my life, I don't feel like I had truly felt unconditional love.
Rob was really the kind of man that, he wasn't typical. Rob showed his feelings in a way that I had not experienced.
Tia is love to me. She accepted me for who I was. She listened to me. She was kind. She was thoughtful. And Tia was a beacon in my life. And so much so that 29 years later, after our breakup, I had reached out to her to just say thank you for being part of my life, for being a point in my life that I felt loved and that I understood what love was because of her.
While Rob and I were apart, I still remembered him being caring and thoughtful and kind and compassionate and having feelings and wanting to know about me and my day and how I was. That's not something that continued when we were apart. It's always something that I thought of and wanted back. I didn't think that would ever be possible. But here we are. 29 years later, we met again, and now 35 years later, we are engaged. So it happens.
And it turns out that, well, as you can see, it was quite a bit more than just a thank you. We're 6.5 years now, and we're engaged. And I couldn't be more thrilled. I would love for it to have happened earlier, but we've had some challenges running up to this point.
Sometimes life takes us on separate paths, even when love feels unbreakable. Our story began as young loves passing notes in the library. It ended abruptly in heartbreak. Pressures from Rob's family, rooted in perceptions of what was good enough, drove us apart. Over the next 29 years, we lived completely separate lives. We never saw each other, not even once. But life has a way of weaving a story through coincidences and actions. In December 2015, after all those years, we met again, and in that moment, it was clear. Our love, though tested by time and distance, had never truly faded. And at that moment, we began again.